Former Warroad police officer Joshua Demerly has entered an Alford plea, meaning he acknowledges there's enough evidence to convict him on charges of sexually assaulting a teenager. Sentencing is scheduled for November 8th. He could face a maximum of 55 years in prison. For background on this story, here's our original story posted on April 3rd of this year.
We have some breaking news out of northern Minnesota. A Warroad police officer, 29-year-old Joshua Matthew Demerly, has been charged with 3 felonies of kidnapping, third-degree criminal sexual conduct, and stalking. According to the criminal complaint, on April 1st of 2019, BCA agents interviewed a victim who reported that Joshua Demerly, the defendant, sexually assaulted a juvenile victim more than 10 times while the victim was 16 and 17 years old. The defendant was a police officer during this time frame and told the victim that they were under investigation for a felony and was the only thing standing between them and the Roseau County Sheriff's Office. The defendant, in fact, at one point claimed another officer had obtained a search warrant for the victim's phone, but that the defendant wouldn't execute the search warrant if the juvenile spent more time with him. When the victim attempted to avoid the defendant called the victim's phone repeatedly and sent text messages saying that he loved the victim. The defendant recently electronically sent photos of himself holding a gun to his head, threatening suicide if the victim wouldn't spend time with him. These calls and messages came from the defendant's cell phone. At one point during this time frame, the victim blocked the defendant's number, so the defendant contacted the victim from another number. The victim further reported that the defendant made them, by agreement, activate location services and to always share their location via Find My Friends on the victim's phone. The victim described the interior of the defendant's residence where they had spent the night on multiple occasions. The victim stated that more than once the defendant provided the victim and other juveniles alcohol and told them they had to spend the night since they had been drinking. The victim reported waking up naked after a night of drinking at the defendant's residence, unable to recall what had occurred the night before. The victim reported that the defendant, Demerly, had performed traffic stops on the victim and asked the juvenile to step out of the vehicle and kiss the juvenile. On one occasion, the defendant activated the emergency lights on his squad, while on duty, turned off the squad camera and took the victim into custody in front of multiple witnesses. The defendant then drove away from the party with the victim seated in the rear seat of the defendant's squad. The above reported incidents occurred in 2017 through 2019, while the victim was under 18 years of age. The victim is currently an adult, and the defendant reportedly still attempts to kiss the victim, and as recently as late March 2019, and continues to contact the victim, expressing his love for the victim and hopes of having a relationship with the victim. Again, a Warroad police officer, Joshua Demerly, charged with kidnapping. If convicted, it carries a maximum sentence of 20 years. He's also charged with third-degree criminal sexual conduct. If convicted, that carries a maximum sentence of 15 years. The third charge of stalking, if convicted, carries a maximum sentence of 10 years in prison.
Again, Demerly has entered an Alford plea on those charges, acknowledging there is enough evidence to convict him. He's scheduled to be sentenced November 8th. I'm Neil Carlson reporting for iNews.tv.